This past Shabbat was Parashat Vayera, and I wanted to do a little recap to share some of my sermon from this past Shabbat. This Parashat Vayera, has so many famous stories in it, and one of the most famous is the story of Sodom and Gomorrah and the conversation between God and Abraham. Before I get to the specifics of that story, though, I want to take us all the way back to the beginning of the book of Genesis, the beginning of the Torah. So many people are familiar with the specifics of the 6 days of creation followed by Shabbat. And I'm sure many of you, but perhaps not everyone, knows a Kabbalistic version of the creation of the world, a retelling of that story. God, of course, fills up all of space, so to speak, before the creation of the world. And in order to create an opening, create an area without God's presence, God has to do tzimtzum. God has to retract God's self, has to create an open space. And into that open space, God shoots, so to speak, the light of creation. And it is this light which ends up making the matter which becomes the stuff of the universe. The chair I'm sitting on, the books behind me, our bodies, mountains, seas, etc., etc. Without the open space, no possibility of creation is available to God. God needs to open up a space so that there can be something other than God. In Kabbalah, this is often called the Halal Panui. It's an open space, and Aviva Zornberg, a very important modern contemporary Bible commentator, talks about this Halal Panui, this open space, not only from a physical perspective, but brings this to bear in terms of the ethical and moral and interpersonal space that is created between God and Abraham in the Parsha which we read this past Shabbat, Parashat Vayera. Aviva Zornberg points out that God didn't really ask for the opinion, didn't solicit the opinion of Adam, and God didn't solicit the opinion of Noah. But God seems unable or perhaps unwilling to move forward with the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah without soliciting the opinion of Abraham. God says to God's self, so to speak, should I tell Abraham what I'm about to do? And in doing so, he really, just as God did tzimtzum to allow some space available for the creation of the world, God now opens up a space for conversation, a space for relationship between God and Abraham. And into that open space, Abraham is able to step forward and say, will not the judge of all the earth act justly? And Abraham is able to then offer his advice, offer his suggestions. And it's a key element of what it means at this point to be a human being. Abraham is the first to really be able to do this with God. Now, I'd like to take that idea and bring it into our interpersonal, as opposed to personal relationship with God, but our interpersonal, person-to-person relationships, and ask us to consider what it means to allow a conversation to happen. So often, too often, we know this in our own personal lives, the space available is lacking. Perhaps I could put it this way. Ask yourself, is there anyone in your life who fails to create a space for you to offer your opinion, who talks so much that they are not able to give you the opportunity to speak? Perhaps in your past, or coming from your past, there is this person who sees you in a very particular way based on something you did or something you were, but isn't allowing you the space to grow and change, to become something different. Or you could ask yourself it the other way around. Is there anyone about whom you may be cutting off that opportunity as well? Perhaps there is someone you've already pegged. You know exactly what they're about based on something they said or did, and you're not really giving them the space to grow and change. You're not allowing it to not allowing them to create a different impression, to take a different path than they already did. What God gives Abraham is really a tremendous gift, the opportunity to grow by offering his opinion, by using his mind and then sharing his mind with God. God is a model in so many different ways, and in this way, it's a really critical model. Whether it is our relationships with our coworkers, our distant family, our close family, our friends, we all fall into this at certain times. We don't allow for a halal panui, an area of openness, a space where there is the possibility of creation or growth. And the idea of offering this as a gift, it's a critical gift that we would give as parents to children, but I think just as much that we can give to our friends and our coworkers, especially in a time when so many of us have very strong opinions and we are sometimes fill that space with our opinions, not wanting other people to have the opportunity to offer opinions that we don't agree with. This model of God offering us this space is a beautiful model of what it means to be in relationship. Abraham and God are seen as friends by Jewish tradition. Perhaps we can take the opportunity this week to be a friend, not by offering our advice, but by creating an opportunity for relationship, a space in which relationship can grow, a space in which each one of us can change. Have a good week.